So, Courtney, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Courtney and I'm from Pennsylvania, about an hour north of Pittsburgh. So that's why all the beautiful snow is in my background. And I am an online fitness coach and I primarily I help working moms who don't take enough time for themselves, but they want to fit fitness and nutrition inside of their day and be the best version of themselves without having to overhaul their entire life. They're already busy. So why would we try and force more things in? We just revamp some things to help them.
That's awesome. And you actually, as you were telling me, decided to take this business model because you kind of out of nowhere became a mom, right?
So, like you're saying, I became a mom overnight. We are foster parents, and how that works is you get a phone call and they tell you, "Hey, would you like this age child, this gender?" And you say yes or no. So, over 24 hours, we became foster parents to a teenager, and she is amazing. But that also reframed how our whole life went. And so, like I was talking about earlier, I feel like you look at moms and you have an idea of what mom does, but behind the scenes, it's not like that. It's just pure chaos. And that is why I picked my business name, which is Thriving Chaos Fitness, because we want you to be able to thrive in your chaos, no overhaul your chaos. We understand it's always going to be chaos. And now I really understand it's always going to be chaos. We have multiple people in and out of our house every single week. It could be one, it could be three. When you become a foster parent, you have multiple doctor's visits, you have to go to court, you have visitation. There's a lot of things that go into this. And so, really realizing how much my life flipped overnight, I wanted to be able to help moms not overhaul their entire life, but kind of work with them to kind of make themselves healthier. I heard an analogy one time of when you're on a plane and the masks come down, they always tell you to put your mask on first before you help others. And I feel like being a mom, we feel guilty doing that. And we always want to help everybody else, and that leaves very little time for us. And same thing with you can't pour from an empty cup. So you're trying to help your entire family, and then you are not feeling the best or not feeling the best about yourself. So, how can we reframe the mindset, the fitness, the nutrition, make it easier for you so it's not overpowering your whole life?
Do you mind if we kind of like backtrack a little bit and kind of
Mhm,
follow the journey of how this all happened? Tell me a little
mhm.
bit about you and your husband's business before you become parents.
Sure. So we actually owned a brick and mortar. We opened it in 2016 and we started as CrossFit. During the pandemic, we realized that we could probably just do without the CrossFit name. And so we de affiliated. We still coached classes and did all the things. But when January rolled around and we were digging into the depths of becoming foster parents, we realized that we cannot drag a child at 5 a.m., wake them up at 4:45 in the morning to go coach classes. That's not fair to them. And so my husband was going to close the gym. Our landlord offered us a smaller area out of the area that we were already in, and I had been coaching online because I wanted my own identity. Like, I helped build that gym with my husband, and I felt like it was his. Like, I had say in it, but it wasn't mine, and so I wanted a business that was mine where I could be like, "Okay, I made this from the bottom up, and it has Courtney's name on it, and no one will ever take that from me," type of thing. So I was coaching online, working full time, helping run a gym where I was coaching full time, and then we decided to become parents. So, as you see, my life has always been chaos. So, I had business coaches that I was talking to, and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna close the gym. I'm just gonna transition everybody that wants to come from the gym online." And they were telling me, "Courtney, you're crazy. If you're getting offered this smaller space for cheaper, for you to film in a place, it's gonna be way more expensive than what you're going to pay in rent. So why don't you just open the smaller space?" In about 2 weeks, we transitioned from being a group fitness class to an open gym model. So my clients went from training at like a high intensity functional fitness area to being able to choose what they want when they want to go in. We're open from 4 a.m. to 11 p.m. So it kind of gives them the wiggle room of maybe they couldn't make it to a class at 6 a.m., but now they can fit it into their day where they can fit it into.
So you went from being a brick and mortar and basically being partners with your husband and kind of feeling like
Mhm.
you were like in his shadow a little bit. And
Yes.
then you guys were running a CrossFit style gym. And then overnight, you now have a child and you're like, I need to pivot and figure
Yeah.
something else out. That's pretty crazy. And it took you 2 weeks to go from the group class to being like online, right? Is that how long it
Yeah.
took you to make that transition?
Yeah. And I should say too, my husband had hernia surgery the week before we moved the gym. So I moved the entire gym. His friends came and helped me, but pretty much moved that entire gym by myself. Yeah.
So literally thriving in chaos.
Yeah.
That
For
is
the image of it.
absolutely crazy. I could
Yeah.
like being a parent would be enough, but like moving an entire gym, like
Mhm.
that would be unbelievable. So did you get a lot of like I'm really interested in that hybrid model that you run. So did you get a lot of pushback whenever you went from being like, this group CrossFit affiliate gym to being like, hey guys, this is where we're going? Like, did you lose a lot of people jump on board? Like, how did that transition go?
It was about a 50-50. When polling a lot of our area or talking to a lot of people that were already coming to our gym or coming in as prospective clients, ev majority of them were women, and I just feel like that was because I was a woman coach. We just didn't have a lot of men. Um, and so when I kept track of everything that they would say in their initial consultation, and a lot of them would be like, I don't want to go to a Globo gym because I don't want people to look at me, or I don't want to be watched or made fun of because I don't know what I'm doing. And so I just want someone to tell me what to do. And from that information, that's where we came up with this hybrid model. It's very small. There's allowed to be four to five people on the floor at one time. So very small from a 15-person class to five people. And it was like a 50-50 split. A lot of people were dead set on those group classes, which I completely understand. That community and the camaraderie and being able to see people and work out with them and I hate to say it, but be miserable with them is the part of that group training class. And then another 50% of them are like, let's go. We're going to support you either way. And they love this model because they can, like I said, they can fit it into their day where they can fit it into. We have everything from hairstylists to tax people, people who work from home that they just need to get out of the house and want to experience something outside of their office in their home. So all over the board where they can come in and do the workouts when they need to.
So did you get a lot of people who basically stayed in their little cliques and they still work out together? Or is it still now just like people go in and they do their own thing? What do you see more of now since you came from that group into
Yeah.
more of a small hybrid type model?
Here and there, we'll have people that will team up together. It just depends. It's my tax person, which is kind of great. I say at our gym, I can literally pull out someone to help me wherever I need it. So if I need my taxes done, I need my hair cut, all over the place. But I think it's both and where some of them are teaming up and they do work out strictly at 6 a.m. And there's others that if someone's there, they're grateful, but they could also do it on their own and be completely fine.
Gotcha. Okay, that's awesome. I was just curious because of the culture shift. I feel like that's
Mhm.
still the hardest thing. With for my gym specifically, we have kind of like an all walks of lifestyle gym where we try to like basically typically women come in and they're trying to lose that 5 to 10 pounds and we call those the Debbies, the 35-year-old women. And then they slowly turn into Deb Bros where they're like, I just like weightlifting and they don't want to lift
Yeah.
heavier. And like making that switch, I feel like from my culture would be very hard. I'm sure it was for you as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about how you found like how you decided who you're going to use as a mentor to help you through all this. You
Mhm.
mentioned that you hired a coach that kind of
Mhm.
helped you make those changes and you made them very rapidly, which is
Mhm.
really amazing. So how did you pick your coach?
Yeah, so actually my coach picked me. I received a DM from it was a husband and couple wife, and I received a DM from the wife offering me free support. And I think everybody I've ever watched or listened to or anything like that has always been invest in yourself. And it's going to be scary and it's going to suck. And just do it because it's going to help you in the long run. And so I immediately hopped on a meeting with them. They were the spitting image of my husband and I, except for in a different state. And so, really picking them, I had talked to other coaches, I think vetting your coach is a very big thing, and the thing I vet off of is if they post Lamborghinis or not. My husband is in real estate, and it's not a bad thing if you have a Lamborghini, but I feel like those coaches are like a one to many program where my coach was very we were very close, and I actually traveled to go see them. They live about 3.5 hours away from me, so I took multiple trips to where they are and got to hang out with them, just hang out with them, not anything really coaching related. It was a very welcoming area where we got to work one to one together, and their motto was success loves speed. And so that's why everything switched very quickly, is because I knew if I wanted to be successful, I had to take the reins on it before we got too crazy in the foster care situation. And so when we were doing our trainings and getting ready and doing our home visits, I was digging deep into my business and preparing it for me taking off time from my business and not doing the recruiting and anything like that. And so that was a big thing inside of my business coaching, is that we need to build this to be something that I can step away from and be okay.
I'm glad that you were able to. Not many people build with the end in mind. Most people are just like, we're gonna hit the ground running, and wherever we end up is like. And I
Mhm.
personally did that. I'm a prime example of that. Like I was like, I'm gonna start a gym, and then I just
Mhm.
started and started running, but not really any inside in mind. So it's good that you had that forethought of like, I need this to be something that I can manage with my foster child, with everything
Mhm.
else going on. And you work full
Yeah.
time too, right?
Correct, yeah, I
So
work full time.
yeah, so you definitely kudos to you to having that foresight of being like this needs to happen.
Thank
So
you.
you hired this coach, they helped you kind of like get everything moving and they were big
Mhm,
on speed. What do you feel like? So you went from trying to get people for your brick and mortar, right? You made the
mhm,
switch to trying to get people for online and kind of a hybrid type model. What was the big change that you made from marketing for your local business to local marketing for an online business? Like how did that change like happen?
mhm. I really just started telling my story. I think that my story is one that is very odd. Like, a lot of people I keep going back to this, but a lot of people have time as a mom to prepare to be a mom. Like, you have 9 months to prepare that, and we had 24 hours to figure it out. And we're still figuring out. If you don't know what it's like to parent a teenager, like, it's crazy. You're learning every single day, and she's learning every single day because she's not used to the things that she's come to our lives and we're coming to hers. So it's constant learning and education, but really just telling my story. I was very overweight. I did not take care of myself even before becoming a parent. And that was just my excuse now is, oh, I'm a parent. I don't need to take care of myself. And so really focusing on me and bringing her into my world. She's very interested in learning. And so we have her writing her own fitness programs at this point.
That's
She
awesome.
Yeah, she knows that she needs a push-up blend every single day, and she goes on YouTube and she looks up movements that she can do, and she brings it to me at the beginning of the week when I'm sitting down to program for my clients and shows them to me, and I approve of them, or it'll be like, "Hey, like, you're doing bench 2 days in a row. We need to switch that up," type of thing. And her goal is to become a blogger for fitness, whether it's CrossFit or High Rocks or anything like that, but she would like to blog about fitness. So it's nice to instill that in your children too. I think that's everybody wants to be like, "Oh, I have to get away from my child to do this fitness thing, but or the business thing," but really just include them. She's
Hmm.
in a lot of my reels and things like that, and so I think just sharing that with the world shows a different outlook on, okay, she's right there with me, and so she understands rather than I've had a lot of people be like, "Oh, I like the way you coach because you didn't come in with abs." And it wasn't just like, "Hey, like, look at me. I have what you want, but you look like us," type of thing. And so that's where I got a lot of women is they understand where I'm at and I understand where they're at.
So you were able to really like connect with them on a deeper level because you're not like here and they're here. You guys are literally neck to neck.
Exactly.
You just have a little bit more knowledge on how to get to where you want to go. That's
Exactly.
a huge difference. You mentioned a couple times like reels, getting a place to
Mhm,
record, all the stuff like that.
mhm.
So is content a big part of your like client acquisition strategy, or explain to me a little bit more about your content?
Sure. So I do a lot of reels. Um, I'm currently working with a coaching. company that really pushes reels. They've realized how much they work, and so they're not like the funny videos that you would think that you see, but more just like educational or just my everyday life or here's what I'm doing. I really try and post every single day. With the holidays coming up, it doesn't always work like that. So we're planning around, but just really focusing on driving people to see my content outside of who is following me is my big strategy right now. And then I also host free events every single month where I walk through my whole program and I give them exactly what I do in my program for free. And then we do a strategy session after, which we call a nutrition audit, where I take what I showed them in my free event and I put it towards their life. And then I kind of do something different. I wait for them to ask me to be a part of my program. I don't sell to them at all. I make that promise from the very beginning that I'm not going to sell to them. It's just free. I just want to show them and help them because I know what it's like to be a mom and it's stressful. And so by the end of our nutrition audit, I open up the floor to them if they would like to know more about the program. We go over that. If not, we just move on.
Uh, Giving until they ask is like such a eye opener. Like you realize you
Mhm.
don't have to be this sleazy salesman to go out there and actually help the world. You can literally just give, and eventually people will start asking. It really is a
Mhm.
nice change. It's nice to meet someone else who goes with that strategy. So
Yeah.
you do your reels, and you try to drive traffic to the reels, and then you do
Mhm.
your events to try to basically lead them to the next step, essentially.
Correct.
Do you have any tips for someone who's like, for example, I don't do many reels. I love doing YouTube videos, like long content, things along those lines. Do you have any tips to like try to get your reels more exposure? Like, what are you doing to help get your content more views, basically?
Sure. Well, conveniently, my 16-year-old, she was very into YouTube before she came to us. So she helps me a lot with coming up with ideas, but don't overthink it. Really, I just record random things. Like it could be me walking on the treadmill. It's a lot of B-roll. If I know you're familiar with that doing YouTube, but it's just random videos. There's no sound or anything to them. It could be me, like when I recorded this morning before we got on this call, was me blow drying my hair. It's just simple things. It doesn't even have to do with fitness, but just show your face and don't be afraid to show your face. I had a lot of imposter syndrome before posting reels like I do now. And I think getting over that and just realizing just have fun with it. And some people are going to like it and some people are going to be like, oh, that was lame, but that's okay. And then really utilizing hashtags. I've been really trying to incorporate more hashtags and I get a lot of views off of that where people are searching for certain things. And then my mom also is a huge supporter and she shares all my content. So when I post something, my mom immediately shares it or my husband shares it and it goes out to all of their followers too.
That's super awesome. Having a supportive family really does make the difference. I
Yes.
do want to, I didn't just glaze over this. This is something I made a mental note of. So you actually, as a mom, found a way to integrate your daughter into your business versus trying to like make those two things separate. So
Mhm.
how have you like kind of got her into it? Was it something she was just interested in and you just like fed into it, or did you like try to get her into it by like providing her with information and then she ran with it? Like, how did she become part of the whole thing?
A little of both. She wanted money. And so at first I hired her on as a virtual assistant for me or an assistant and was just giving her allowance through her helping me as that was like one of her chores is she would get on and she would add people to my free Facebook account, my Facebook group, and that's where it started. And it's slowly gotten bigger and bigger where she doesn't quite do that anymore, but she does sit down with me once a month and we go through, we have a whole Asana account where I put ideas for social media that just pop in my head or I see them like other content creators are doing an example of that and I'm like, "Oh, I could spin this to be this way." Or she sends me things off TikTok and Instagram and things like that where we'll put that in and just brain dump and then we'll go through, we're women, so what are we wearing? What are we do how will my hair look? What will you do doing it? What is content that we can put over top of this? And she sees it from the other perspective of, okay, my mom does all these things for me, X, Y, and Z, and I know she's busy, but how would other moms or other kids see this if their mom was doing this? Would they be appreciative, or would they think that they were taking time away from them? Or how can we incorporate your children into this? And she's big with that, especially with wanting to work out, where, okay, well, maybe we could make it so they go on a walk with their kid, or we go outside and play soccer or anything like that.
Man, that's awesome. I didn't realize
Yeah.
like I assumed she was just kind of in the background doing some stuff every now and then and wanted to make her own program. She's
Hmm.
literally like in the business doing
Yeah.
the kind of stuff. That's really
Yeah.
cool. You're making it a whole family endeavor. Does
Yeah.
your husband still like get involved with this stuff too, now that he's not like part of the gym owner or anything, or does he basically just focus on the real estate side?
He just does the real estate side. He jokes that even when the gym, he was like my silent investor. I like took the reins and I was like coaching and doing all the things. But he just kind of stands in the background. He's actually one of my clients. And so it's kind of nice because he sees the end result of it, whereas he's in my coaching app and he sees all the things. We actually are in the process of switching coaching apps, and so he's my little test subject right now where he's testing the new app and doing all the things in the new app for me. So, yeah, but not really.
So you mentioned switching coaching apps. As
Mm,
someone who's had to switch software multiple times, it can be an absolute nightmare. Where are you going from to, and what made you decide
mm.
to make that change?
So, I'm currently with Trainerize, and I am in between 2 right now. I'm testing one and he's testing another. He's testing Kahunas, and I'm testing OneFit, and they're both very similar. So the only reason I wanted to make the switch is because my life is so chaotic. I'm using multiple softwares with Trainerize where I have to use Google Forms for a check-in form, or okay, we're doing MyFitnessPal and it's transferring into Trainerize, whereas the 2 softwares we're testing right now are all inclusive. So it automatically reminds them that they need to do their check-in. There's a daily check-in that automatically syncs with their smartphone health, so Google or Apple. There's places for learning platforms. So inside of my coaching, I do a whole course where we talk about mindset and we talk about nutrition, and I teach them what balanced meals look like, fitness, what to do if you get injured, types of things. And so with Trainerize, I was sending messages and overwhelming my clients, whereas I can just put it into their program, like, go look at this mindset activity. This is what I want you to do today.
Okay, that's awesome. So it's basically got a little more one automation and just user friendliness in the background.
Hmm.
I use Trainerize, so this is super interesting to me because I'm
Yeah.
kind of in the same boat where like I'm using 3 or 4 softwares to get everything
Yeah.
done, and by the time it's all said and done, I have to choose like, do I want to give my clients the programs, or do I want them to have this community? Like, where do I want? So that's
Hmm.
really cool. I might have to look into those. If you do pick a winner, definitely let us know because I'm
Okay.
always looking for a way to improve in that
I will
regard.
definitely.
Um, so I kind of want to dive into this is probably going to be your specialty, and I'm definitely interested in hearing it. One
Mhm.
of the biggest reasons and one of the biggest struggles I know a lot of fitness coaches are facing is just time in general. Now, you're
Mhm.
someone who's a full-time, you're a mom, you're a fitness coach, you're making all this content, everything along those lines. Like, if there's anyone I've ever met that might have a good excuse to not move forward, it would be you. So,
Yeah.
can you give some advice to someone who's kind of like overwhelmed right now. They're kind of dealing with all these different things they have to do to run a business. How do you manage all this? What do you do?
So when I have a virtual assistant who I found on Upwork, and that was a huge jumping step for me where I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna invest in this, like, I can do it, but I can't do it." So she does a lot of my outreach for me. I give her everything that she needs, and she reaches out to people to invite them, or she replies to comments for me. She sends out messages to those who have commented on my stuff or watched my stories or interacted with my stories. And so that is one thing that has helped a lot, is just having her. She also has a background in nutrition, where that was one thing that I really didn't think was a huge deal until I had to get rid of my first virtual assistant. So having her and her having that knowledge, she's PN certified. And so she has that background on, okay, I understand X, Y, Z. She's also a mom. That was a big thing that I was like, okay, these are my stipulations. So she helps a lot with that end. But really, organization is my game. My full-time job is in research, and so I'm just very used to being able to organize data or projects and do project management because I do that for everyday work, but I take that and put it into my business too. So just staying organized, making sure all of your stuff is where it needs to be. And another thing I do is I just pre-do everything. So I plan out in advance. All of my programs are pretty much done in advance. As soon as someone joins, I program them out for 16 weeks. Now, I will go in and change things if I notice, like, hey, we're not doing very well at this, or we're struggling with that, or this just doesn't work at all. I will go in and change things around. But when they come into, I take what they need and I put it into the program for 16 weeks. Same thing with my content. I'm a week ahead on my content every single week. And just recording everyday actions makes it easy to create my content because I don't have to worry about it. I also have a teenage foster daughter, and she's very big on taking pictures and videos and all the things. So it makes it easy where she can help me because she recorded me like cutting bread the other day. So it's just little things like that where she knows that I need to make content or she wants to make content for her stuff. So she kind of helps me there. But really just taking that time and being like intentional, like, oh, I can record this and turn it into something. It doesn't have to constantly be fitness. It could be cutting bread or walking on your desk treadmill or going for a walk outside.
So I really like the idea of being ahead of the game. Like the one of the key things I took from there was like you're pretty much always pre-planning everything out. So whenever someone signs up, they get their
Yeah.
16 weeks, so then you don't have to constantly like be in this fight or flight of trying to catch up with things. Do you have any like practical tips to keep that organizational structure in line? Because I know, for example, this is with me, I always have the good intention of being ahead, but then the actual act of being ahead takes some organizational skills that I just don't
Mhm.
always have. So do you have any
Yeah.
recommendations on how someone could like stick with a routine like that or develop a routine like that?
Mhm. I think just really carving out hours in your day. I do a lot of time blocking where I sit down and look at my calendar and I know from this time to time I have a huge chunk or I think it was a big thing of my family having to understand that I need to sit in my office for 2 hours and get this done because this means that I'll be more successful in the future. And my husband jokes that I could sit down and create a website in an hour because I just am so used to being tunnel visioned. But really just honing in and giving yourself that time where there's no distractions and planning it out. I save a lot of those templates too. For example, working with moms, they're all around the same. They want to lose that weight, like you were talking about. They want to do this. So I have a template where I'm like, oh, this is my person for at home. She doesn't want to go to the gym. And then this is my person for, okay, we have some equipment. It's more functional though, or here we're going to a Globo gym. So I save those and then I can modify them as I need to for that specific person.
Awesome. So you basically have like, I mean, that's one of the benefits of doing a niche, right? Like you have a rough
Mhm.
structure of what it is that you're wanting to do, and then you can
Exactly.
modify it based on the person. So I'm sure that does save a lot of time.
Mhm.
So when you do your time blocking, do you typically like, do you put it in your calendar and you're like, I'm going to work on this task and nothing else? Or do you like block off time and whatever you feel like is important, you just do it at a time? Like, how do you manage your schedule?
I would say the latter. I don't go in and be like this right here is only going to be for programming. It'll be more like okay, Sunday afternoon, we're gonna go grocery shopping when we get home. I have a 2 hour block where I can check things off the list. I do client check-ins and whatever's on the highest priority right now that needs done is what will be done first, and then it'll go through until the end. And then same thing throughout the week. With working full time, sometimes I do have to take my lunch to do client things or take client meetings. And that was very hard for me to be like, okay, well, now I'm not eating, so I have to eat during work. But if you want it that bad, you have to make sacrifices at some point. And so it's just finding that rhythm of, okay, I can eat while I program, or I can eat after my client touch base. Just really working things in and not being so strict where I'm like, okay, this has to be done this way. I started that way and I got super overwhelmed. And so just giving myself grace and like, okay, you have 2 hours. stay off TikTok and just focus on what you need to get done for your business.
I think there's a lot of magic to be said in the just being able to give yourself some grace and focus on what you feel like is the most important thing at the time and just honing in on it. I think a lot of times, and I've been a victim of this, I've been really rigid with my schedule where I've been like, okay, during this time block, I'm going to work on this, but your mind's on something else, so you end up like
Mhm.
fighting it the whole time. So I do like that idea of having a little bit more having structure, but a little bit more freedom within that structure. Now, I know another thing, and I actually talked about this in the last interview I did too, is finding that nice balance. You're an incredibly busy person. You make content, you're doing all this stuff to grow your business, and we're very forward-thinking people. You have to be in
Mhm.
business. How do you kind of balance doing all of that stuff, but still, because I didn't mention another job that you have, which is being a wife. How
Yeah.
do you balance all of that and still being able to show up and be there for your husband and be the
Mhm.
mom you want to be for your daughter? I know you made it a little bit easier by bringing your daughter in to the business. That
Mhm.
makes it a little bit easier. But what would you recommend to someone who's like struggling to manage the like personal relationship with the business relationship side of things too?
Yeah. One, I think it's very hard going into business with your spouse because it's hard to separate, okay, we're talking about business and we're actually talking about a relationship. And so that was a huge struggle for us the first couple years where we had to, I don't want to say yell at each other, but like confront each other if we were sitting down in dinner and I was talking about the gym or he was talking about what was going to happen at the gym. And so learning that early on was a big thing for us. But also, now that we are parents, we have one more person in our lives that we also have to get attention to. And so, one thing that we do is I tell my clients this too. We have a little whiteboard in our kitchen, and as a family, we sit down and we pick what we're going to have for dinner each week, which sounds so simple, but we also schedule in there a date night for my husband and I, where we get to spend 3 hours, just the two of us. She has the option to go with friends, she can stay home, she can go with my mom, she can go with my husband's mom, she can go with my husband's sister, she can do what she wants to, but, like, that is our time, and we're gonna take this type of thing, and we don't do anything super extravagant, we're not going to, like, black ties or anything like that, we just go to dinner, and then we do tasks. Sometimes it's we pick up dog food or, "Hey, I need this from the outlet malls," but just little thing that we get to do, just the 2 of us, because when you become a parent, especially overnight, you kinda lose that side of yourself of being a wife too, and it is draining on your relationship if you don't take time for yourself, and I'm sure that's why you brought that up, but just really planning that out. We also have a family calendar that is shared between my daughter, my husband, and myself, where I put all of my meetings into it. So she knows she doesn't have her driver's license yet, but she knows that if my foster mom has a meeting, then I can't schedule something where she needs to drive me somewhere on this night. Or she knows I'm gonna be in my office when she's coming home from school today because this is on the calendar. And same with my husband. He knows what nights we can schedule out date night and what nights we can't because I have meetings or I have clients that pop up that need checked in with and things like that. So again, really organizing because when everybody knows what's going on, it makes it they can't be mad at you for having a meeting if it's on the calendar.
So it sounds like there's a lot of learning good communication skills there too,
Yes.
which probably is the all be all about that whole thing is having the structure and the communication skills together.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Is this something that your business coach helped you with, or is this something that you just naturally really good at? Like, how did you like structure your schedule in a way that managed to make all this work, or did it kind of just fall in place?
I'd say it just fell in place. Really, the whole planning out dinner thing was we just kept forgetting to pull stuff out of the freezer, and so it got really hard when you're trying to defrost meat under hot water to make chicken for dinner. But really just establishing healthy habits in our foster daughter's life too. So teaching her how to make balanced meals or what does this balanced meal look like? So really, it just kind of fell in place. Like, how can we make this better? How can we make it easier on ourselves because we are so busy?
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. And are these the same skills that you kind of teach to your clients, or do you have other like tips and tricks that you lay out to help balance all this?
Yeah, so one big thing that I teach to my clients is habit stacking because they're already busy. So let's just stack things with things that we're already doing. And so that is one of the things I teach them. So we are incorporating that whole meal in our family dinners. And a lot of clients come to me where they're making meals for themselves and then making a whole different meal for their family. And they're like, I'm overwhelmed. We're trying to show them that it doesn't have to be that way. Just make a one meal that's all around good for you, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think I've heard that same thing 100 times from my clients where it's like, well, I eat this, but the rest of my family only
Yeah,
wants to eat this. And my first thought is always, well, don't do that. Like,
yeah,
that you're making your life so much harder. Uh,
yeah,
do you have whenever you brought your foster daughter in, obviously that
mhm,
was like a new person, new like palette. Did you have any resistance on like trying to get her on board with like the healthy eating style, or was she pretty easy with that? Because that's one thing that I always struggle with my clients. I'm sure other people would like to know some tips and tricks. Is
yeah,
you're not a picky eater, but your rest of your family is. How do you kind of navigate that space?
yeah. So she came to us saying she didn't like a lot of things. Our whole thing is just try it. Like, you don't even have to try a lot of it. It's not like a 3-bite roll or anything like that, but we just want you to try it. And so we've learned that she does like a lot of things. We also learned that she has taken over Tuesdays for us, and every Tuesday is Taco Bowl night, and she helps make that whole meal. But she's very adamant on the things she does like and the things she doesn't, but she's always willing to try something. And so as a parent, I think that is one of the hardest things. I have friends that are like, "Well, my child will only eat chicken nuggets and cheese puffs," and but I tried any of that other things, and so usually it's just they don't want to deal with the situation of having to force them to try it. I think too because she's older, it's she's willing to learn more rather than more younger kids are a little bit more hesitant on and they've already convinced themselves they don't like it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are probably gonna pick your brain more about that because that's one of the biggest struggles as a coach is like you have that one client who has a family at home that doesn't
Mhm.
want to eat the way she wants to eat, trying to get her to go and be like, hey, we're all doing this now.
Yeah.
I know I've struggled with that tons of times. Do you have any advice for like how you get your client to basically replicate what you did? Like you're training
Yeah.
moms, obviously they have a kid who's picky, but the only way they're
Mhm.
going to make it work is to get everyone to do it. How would you get the client to do that?
This is gonna sound awful as a parent, but I snuck things in. Whereas I would sneak like, we've swapped sour cream for non-fat plain Greek yogurt, and I've just
Great life
dolloped
hack
it
right
on our
there.
stuff. Yes, that's my favorite life hack. Same with, like, cottage cheese. I've blended up cottage cheese and dolloped it on her chili and been like, "Here you go." I didn't even realize it, and then when you ask her how good it is, she's like, "Oh, this is great," and you're like, "Oh, great, this is XYZ," and she's like, "Oh, really?" Like, it clicks that it's not as bad as she thinks it is. I think in our aspect too, she was not used to eating healthy before she came to us, so
Hmm.
it was a big change for her, but in a good way. She will cut up her own vegetables now and pack them to take them to school. So there's like instances where she's learning that, like, okay, I would rather have this crispy cucumber over a chip because it tastes better to me. So that was a nice awakening of like just making healthier swaps, I think is the easiest thing, or making it fun. We have a Ninja Creamy too. I'm not saying you have to go out and buy a Ninja Creamy, but it's like a science experiment trying to make that ice cream, and so it just makes it fun where you can still have your cake and eat it too. Another thing I do with my clients is an 80-20 rule, so 80% of the time we're eating healthy and doing the things that we're supposed to, but 20% of the time, I would love to see them go have a drink or eat something fun or go to a baseball game and have pizza. I don't want it to be so strict where they're eating Tupperware at family vacation. I want it to be fun for them, and so really focusing on that too, I think has helped a lot of my clients where they're like, "Okay, we don't have to eat chicken and rice and broccoli every single night of the week. It can be fun and we can create our own recipes." And another thing I do is on Sundays, I have a class called Cooking with Courtney,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
yeah, so Tuesday they get the recipe and the grocery list so they can get the things that they need. Sunday we come together as a group and we cook together and we've done cheesecake, we've done egg bites, we've done burrito bowls for breakfast. So there's a lot of opportunities where they can make recipes that they are already making for their family and make them healthier.
That's really awesome. The doing a cooking class, and I'm assuming you do this virtually, like you do like a live or
Mhm.
something. That's
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. Well, it sounds like you're making amazing content, and if some people wanted to follow you, coaches or potential
Mhm.
clients, where like them to go to follow you and keep up to date with all this cool stuff you're doing?
Sure. I think I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. And so my Instagram is Court, like the beginning of my name, and then MCF underscore. And then my Facebook is just C McFeaters.
Awesome. Well, definitely go check her out, and I'm going to have a link below so you can find that. I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I can't wait to talk to you again in the future to find out what's changed and how good your hybrid
Yeah.
program's doing.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.